What did we learn in the Buccaneers win over the Cardinals? That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at EKloskyWTSP. We are your credential members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, you can find Evan on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. And I am here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Taking a look at the matchup with the New Orleans Saints, and the crystal ball is coming up in a little bit. But Evan, we are going to start this one off with the fact that, hey, we're finally talking about the Bucs winning a game. It feels like it's been a month of Sundays since that's happened, but it did get a little dicey there at the end. I did think there were some really good things that they could build off of. There were also some bad things they still need to get cleaned up if this team is going to compete in January. But I want to start on the offensive side of the ball because, of course, that was the story going into this, the return of Bucky Irving, the return of Ben Bredeson. You have Chris Godwin coming back, all that. So let's go ahead and start there and get your biggest takeaway from this game as far as the offense is concerned.
As far as the offense is concerned, I actually am encouraged leaving that game. And I know that the 20 points on the scoreboard isn't impressive, but, Emeka Egbuka had a bad drop on the first drive of the game. That would have been 3 points. Chris Godwin had a bad drop in the end zone. That would have been another 4 points. The referees killed the drive because of a Tristan Wirfs holding that wasn't a hold, like very clearly was not a hold. There was also a Tez Johnson. I don't think it burned them. I think this was on the Tristan Wirfs touchdown drive. But, Tez Johnson was called for OPI. It wasn't OPI. So there were actually a lot of things in there offensively and what Grizz drew up that I actually liked, that I thought was moving in the right direction. The rushing attack wasn't as good as we have seen it in recent games, especially against a team where they are susceptible to explosives. They're like a good rush defense, but sometimes can give up the big one. So I would have liked to see a little bit better there, especially with Ben back. Some up and down play there from Feeney. Otherwise, nothing that I'm going to brag about and say, oh, man, the offense is back. Like, there are still concerns that in week 14 now, like, what do we have to brag about with this offense? And I know it's been hell trying to fill holes since week 1, but you have the Seahawks game, right? Like, everyone's happy with the Seahawks game. That was the best we've ever seen this offense. The Niners game was pretty good as well. Elite execution in that game. But, these are the points. After that Niners game, 9, 23, which the Saints win, which was aided by the defense, mind you. 23, 32, the Buffalo the rushing attack in Buffalo was actually fantastic. And then 20. And then, at the beginning of the season, you got 23, 20, 29 against the Jets. Long story short, I think they're kind of looping back around, and hopefully, Chris looking like himself, Bucky getting thrown into the mixer again. You're going to start seeing this team gel offensively, especially whenever Mike and Jalen get back in the fold.
Obviously, there's probably going to be a lot more that needs to be said about the defense because they started off hot. They looked good. You get the takeaway on the opening drive, 3-and-out. You allow the field goal at the very end of the half, but then you start off the second half, you get another takeaway, and then it started to revert back to what we had seen, over the course of the past couple of weeks until they get that fourth down stop, thanks to Servassier Dennis with the pass breakup there at the end. So what was your biggest takeaway on the defensive side of the ball?
Look, from a pressure standpoint, having Hassan Reddick helped. Hassan didn't wow me in his return, but I guess that shouldn't be surprising considering he's missed a lot of time with that injury. But having him on the D line with those 4-man pressures, they were, I think I saw a stat like north of 50% on pressures. They were number one in the league, and I know, like, everybody out there is sick and tired of hearing about pressure rate, not sacks. But look, like, it matters. So, Antoine Winfield Jr., shoots through, I think, the B gap on a blitz, and Brissett throws it away. Like, it's not a sack, but it's a wasted down. There was a play where on Yaya Diaby's sack where Jacoby is kind of fiddling around, running around the pocket, and has to roll out because he's all discombobulated. That resulted in a sack. There was an intentional grounding in there because Jacoby threw it away. Like, the thing about these pressures is it forces you to get the ball out of your hand quickly, and you can't get to certain reads where, you look at the tape and the guy for whatever team it is wide open, and you're like, oh man, he missed him. It's like, he didn't miss him. It's just there was so much pressure in the pocket. He didn't have time. And I still think that this was a little bit like 2024 Bucs defense where, you try to get some negatives or a splash play in there, and everything else is just bleeding yards. Like this defense just bleeds yards. Like, at a certain point, when the year comes to an end and this defense doesn't come back around, like, it's not even about like, oh, should Todd Bowles be the head coach of this team? It's like, well, if he's the defensive coordinator, like his defense does not work without elite pressure in the trenches. And hopefully Kalijah Kancey, when he returns, will solidify that as long as the other guys remain. But it's such a, like, Todd does not know how to elevate the group behind them. It's very much just it's pedantic. And sometimes he wows you with a game plan, like here and there he comes out with these game plans that it's like, oh man, he's got it. But like there was nothing to that Arizona game plan, really. Like, there were stints where they figured out what Arizona wanted to get to, and they kind of got it, and then second half came and Arizona figured them out, and Bowles couldn't answer that response back, and that's sort of the ping pong match that happens. But you just kind of watch other defenses in the league, and I don't know, like, there's a lot of talent on that side of the ball outside of Kancey. Like, there's no excuses, like, and at some point they have to realize that Zion is not the number one that they thought he was going to be. And Jamel Dean triggered on that interception from Antoine. Like, go watch that film. Like, they're not going to have Jamel next year, and it's like, what do you have coming up the pipeline that gives you confidence that you like? And also, like, between Zion and Morrison, none of them can stop slants. None of them can stop a slant. It's just not good enough. And quarterbacks are getting the ball. It's the same game plan every time for offensive teams. Get the ball out of your hand quickly. And for, that's why there was that stint there where they were bleeding those explosives, which is rare for a Todd Bowles defense, because usually the game plan is just fling it out there and pick up your yaks. But, defense only gave up 17, but they got bailed out by some explosive plays, and good on them. not to discount the 2 turnovers they got because they've been forcing them all year. But, 2 turnovers, 2 sacks were huge pieces to keep Arizona to 17. But otherwise, it was bad. It was one of the worst tackling efforts I've seen from this team in quite some time. Like, Bowles is ripping them on the sideline. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you cannot afford, if you're going to have a defensive head coach in the NFL, you cannot afford your defensive head coach to have a unit that's 27th in pass defense. Like, its defensive coach needs to be elite. Go look at Houston. Go look at Seattle. Those are defenses that are dominant in the NFL. And this defense, and I'm worked up because there's so much better. The talent on this team is so much better than what we see week in and week out from this group. And there is no way, and heck, there's no way that Jason Licht can run this back in 2026 if this is the defense that he's going to get every single year. And like 1 or 2 pop games from him, it just doesn't work anymore. I'm sick and tired of watching the same film. It's just not fun to watch, and they're not good. They had really good trench work this week, and then you're going to go up against a really good team. And what happens if your 4-man rush doesn't work? We saw what happens in LA. You're going to get roasted all the time. So I don't know, man. I don't know. The defense gets to play like the Saints, which was their best performance earlier in the season. Maybe they can get some confidence that way. But it's a pretty simple game plan for other teams, just try to protect the football and get the ball out of your hands as quick as possible. And we're going to get 300 at least on passing yards.
All right. Well, we are going to turn our attention to the Saints. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. There's live spreads and money lines adjusted instantly, and player props as guys begin to heat up or cool down. Right now, the Buccaneers are 8.5-point home favorites against the New Orleans Saints with an over-under of 42.5, and the Buccaneers are still the favorites to win the NFC South at minus 550, while the Panthers are in second at plus 450. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, Evan, a big divisional game here because if the Bucs win this, as well as their next 2 games, they win the division. They control their own destiny, and despite all of the defensive issues that you just laid out and that I'm going to lay out more on tomorrow's episode, win 3 in a row, well, 4 in a row if you count the Cardinals game, you win the division. But it starts with the Saints. The last time these two met, the Bucs forced New Orleans into the Shuck era. How do the Bucs replicate that success in the second meeting?
Yeah, you go back to that game in New Orleans, offense beaten up all over the place. They looked terrible. You couldn't score from a half yard out. It took you 9 tries. But defensively, man, as dominant as we have seen this season, Anthony Nelson looked like Myles Garrett. It was impressive. Antoine Winfield Jr. had 2 touchdowns taken away in that game.
So I'm still angry about that.
Very. That was, let's not relitigate that. So what has to happen? You just literally cannot make mistakes. This team had against teams like New Orleans. Let's go back to the Rams upset, right? The Rams moved the ball up and down the field on Carolina. That wasn't the issue. They turned it over 3 times. Carolina turned it over 0. And one of those turnovers resulted in a touchdown the other way. And I don't care if you play anyone in the NFL and you lose the turnover margin. That was plus, that was -3 for the Rams. And they were still in position to tie, if not win the game at the end. But if you lose the turnover margin, I don't care who you play in the NFL, you're playing with fire. The Buccaneers, despite all the criticism and the up and down play, like, they have protected the football this season. They are a top 5 team in turnover differential. The Saints, I believe, are a bottom 5 team. I forget the numbers off the top of my head. I believe there's a 14 turnover gap between the two. I think the Bucs are +9, and I think the Saints are -5 in turnover differential. So, like, at its very core, you just cannot give the Saints any break. Let them earn everything, because it's going to be very hard for them to do that. Offensively, this rushing attack stinks. Like, their rushing attack is really bad. And I kind of like, Devin Neal, a rookie who will be in there. I don't expect Alvin Kamara to play in the game, even though Todd Bowles has a great history against him. So then you got to get Shuck to throw the ball over the yard. If you remember that game in New Orleans, they had Rashid Shaheed in that game. They're not going to have him this time around. It's Olave and Vele and Jawan Johnson. Taysom Hill has a wonderful history against the Buccaneers. I'm sure he'll be utilized in some regard in this game as well. But as long as you don't make any mistakes, you're going to win this game. That's just the reality of it. Your best is better than their best. Your mediocre might not be better than their good. So if you do that, you're fine. Defensively speaking, for the Saints, a very good group. Their defense doesn't speak to their record, but they're likely not going to have Justin Reed. And that's going to be a big loss for that team, not just in the passing attack, but also run defense. He's very good in run defense. So the Saints without Justin Reed, you have to wonder if there's the ability to exploit something back there that typically they don't deal with. And then, you got to also, and I forgot to mention this, but there might be some serious weather concerns on Sunday. Right now, talking with our meteorologist, like, there could be a gap there in the first half. Like, we could get a gap during game time, but there's gonna be inclement weather on Sunday in Tampa, and it could very well be in that first half. So, there's going to be a lot of focus on just, I would say probably ground and pound, gritty, not pretty, figure it out, and make the Saints, scratch and claw for every point that they get. And it's going to be very hard if you can pin them back for them to go 90 yards on you and get a touchdown. Shuck will eat some sacks. He's been better protecting the football the last few games. He's actually got a very high completion percentage. So I do have flashbacks to New Orleans in Tampa last year, where Spencer Rattler was just dinking and doinking this team all over the field for like field goals. But otherwise, I do think you can rattle him a little bit. I think the pressure can get the Shuck. And if you have the defensive line perform like they did against Arizona this weekend, I think you'll be in pretty good shape.
A couple of quick things. First, at least the inclement weather isn't what I just dealt with, which was 4 inches of snow overnight.
Won't be snowing. I can promise you that.
So there is that. But did want to mention, yes, you had the turnover differential numbers correct. The Bucs are tied for the second best with the Texans and Rams at +9. New Orleans is tied with Dallas at -5. The only teams with worse turnover differentials than the Saints and Cowboys are the Titans, Giants, Commanders, Jets, and the Vikings. Because J.J. McCarthy is terrible, but those of us that watch football already knew that.
Did you just quickly? Did you see the Ohio State Michigan game this past weekend?
I mean, yeah, I did.
Speaking of JJ McCarthy?
I saw part of it. I also was exhausted from work and I went to sleep. So
yeah, but like, you saw the final score, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
you saw that Ohio State won.
So what happened was what we all expected to happen.
I just want to make sure that you saw that because I definitely saw it and I didn't know if you saw it. So I just wanted to let you know.
Well, you know, it's I'm sure it's nice for you Ohio State fans one since the pandemic. So no, Thanksgiving, my father-in-law looks at me and he goes, "Has anybody ever told you look like Ryan Day?" And I went, "That is the meanest thing anybody has ever said to me in my entire life."
You also don't look like Ryan Day.
Thank you. I didn't think that I did either, but he apparently thinks so. So I appreciate you having my back on that one. Also, college football playoff. Not to go off on a tangent, but how on earth did Alabama go up after barely beating Auburn? Like barely, and they were
college football. Everyone listening here, the NFL is the right product right now. College football acts like they're big boys. They ain't even close. They got to figure out so much crap with their system. Yeah. It's so bad.
It's going to take a while before they finally get it right. But hopefully back to the Bucs before people turn this off. Hopefully they are able to replicate that defensive success. I think they're going to have a solid shot at it. But real quick, I do want to ask you, as far as the offense is concerned, there were a lot of people wondering why Sean Tucker was basically non-existent in this Cardinals game. Do you think that's what they're going to do moving forward, or do you think Sean Tucker is going to get more of an opportunity in this one than he did against Arizona?
No, Sean Tucker he's going to take a back seat because those carries are going to go to Bucky Irving. And Rachaad White is the third down back. He's great in pass pro. And yes, he's going to also get some runs as well. So there's just Sean Tucker. He's just a runner, like at least in the Buccaneers' eyes. And if you give him a carry, you're taking a carry away from Bucky. It's not necessarily a carry away from Rachaad. Rachaad's role, and I mentioned this before, it should be finite. It should have been finite regardless of Bucky leaving. Like when Bucky left, Sean Tucker should have immediately been in all those carries. They didn't do that. They tried to play this little Rachaad 1, and then Sean was 2. And then they realized, like, far too late, let's just give Sean Tucker the ball more. So, look, Bucky Irving's healthy. He's going to get most of the load. And then I imagine that Rachaad's going to be in there for pass pro stuff. And, I don't expect Sean to be pleased with the amount of carries he's going to get moving forward.
He'll definitely get an increase next year when Rachaad leaves in free agency, and according to David Harrison, becomes a Washington Commander. All right, Evan is going to bust out that crystal ball. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos, endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. Add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's opened. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. Huge win. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code Locked On at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code Locked On. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Wrapping things up here on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. And Evan, it's time to get out the crystal ball. And we were talking before the show, and I'm giving you credit for your bold prediction last week. Your bold prediction was 5 sacks. I said it on the live reaction episode. It felt like the Bucs got a lot more than 2. You had the intentional grounding. We both decided that intentional grounding is a sack. It's a spot foul, it's a loss of count. That's a sack. And then, as you mentioned earlier in this episode, there were a couple of times that the pressure was closing in and it was going to be a sack, and he dirted the ball. So the pressure was immense. It caused the Cardinals to lose some plays there. So I'm giving you credit on your bold. Even though the stat sheet doesn't say 5 sacks, in our hearts, we know better.
That's what matters.
Your player was Bucky Irving. He got my golden game ball, so I'm going to give you that one too. And then you had this as a 2-point win. It was a 3-point win. Close enough. We're gonna call that a sweep for the crystal ball last week. So let's hope that it is as accurate as it was last week. What is your bold prediction for this one?
Bold prediction, going to get another defensive touchdown.
Just one?
Yeah, I'm not going to get greedy.
How many are going to get called back?
Maybe, knowing the refs this year against Tampa Bay, 3. 3 are going to get called back.
So we're gonna have 4 defensive scores, but only one of them actually counts.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, quantity will be necessary.
You want to double down and name the player?
I'll go Tyke Smith because that's going to be my player of the game.
I love that. And if it doesn't, if the defense scores but it's not Tyke, it still counts. So it's just a free bonus point.
Free bonus point. I need to do that catching up from earlier in the season.
There we go. That's how we can start doing this. And then you just said it. Your predicted player of the game is Tyke Smith. Why are we going with Tyke other than the fact that he's been arguably the best defender for the Bucs all season long?
Yeah, I think he's been awesome. Consistent week in, week out. And his rookie season, he had a big game against the Saints when he played them. I think for a defender who's on an absolute heater for a team that side of the ball that's not, I think he should be licking his chops for this game. Antoine Winfield Jr. that week before New Orleans, felt it coming, had a good week of practice. I think Tyke can have some fun. He scooped up the fumble this past weekend against Arizona, and good things happen to great players who work their tails off and continue to put in the necessary tape to show that they're one of the best in the league. So I'm going Tyke.
I love that. And I was checking real quick. I'm pretty sure, no career touchdowns in the NFL for Tyke Smith. So that would be a double bold there. If he gets the touchdown, it would be the first one of his career. Look, this is a game the Bucs should win. This is, Bucky looked fantastic. You're talking about a couple of bad drops away from both Ibuka and Godwin having huge games against the Cardinals. And I think Godwin's confidence is back, and that's certainly going to play a role in this game going up against the Saints defense. How do you see this one shaking out? What's the final score in a game where the Bucs are favored by 8.5 points?
Yeah, I have a tough time giving the Bucs 8.5 points. They've given me no reason to think that they should be a team that wins by that kind of margin. They haven't done it all year. They do not win by margin. They win outside of the first Saints game. They're scratching and clawing. So I need you to circle back on this one because of the weather. I am a little bit concerned about the weather that it could be an equalizer of sorts. But I'm going to have the Bucs winning 22-16. I think that the Saints offense will be able to dink and doink its way to some points. The Buccaneers I have getting a defensive touchdown. I think it's going to be much of the same. Some really nice things, some things for scratching your head about. But with a Thursday night football game coming up against Atlanta, a team that we know is I know Kirk Cousins is the quarterback who can throw for 400 against Tampa Bay, but ultimately they're a team where their record is not indicative of the talent. And so as far as concerns that I would have entering one of the two games, right? I'd be more concerned about Atlanta. And I think here with New Orleans, you just got to find a way to win. And find a way to win against New Orleans, find a way to win against Atlanta, and then you spend, your bonus 3 days and all that to bring your best punch to Carolina. So I at this point, I don't even care what the margin is for this team. Find a way. And so I don't really think they're going to put. I'm waiting to see that killer instinct. And until I see it, I can't predict it. So 22-16.
Yeah, only 2 double-digit wins for the Bucs this year. The Saints, of course, and then the 49ers. They won by 11.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like you said, there are other teams on this schedule that they should have beaten by double digits and didn't. The Jets come to mind. The Cardinals. Yeah, again, if Godwin catches that pass, if Ibuka doesn't drop the third down, you're talking about a 7-point swing. That would have made it a 10-point game. So we need to see it, Tampa. We need to see it. Evan, what do we have going on over there on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app?
Yeah, remember, we got the Blitz every Sundays, 8:30 in the morning on 10 Tampa Bay. You can watch the Blitz starting Friday nights on 10 Tampa Bay Plus and our YouTube page. You can also watch the Ultimate Florida Sports Show, which is also on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. And then you can also hit me up at eKlosky WTSP. And I always love, talking with everybody about the Bucs.
All right. Yep. Make sure you are checking all of that out. Please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eKlosky WTSP, Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Bucs, both of those places. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. You want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider. It's real simple. Like this episode on YouTube, leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.